All right, so we come to the next module, anxiety and anxiety related. Wow, that's a mouthful. That's a lot. This is basically sedative hypnotics, but it will cover two spectra of disorders. So the anxiety related disorders, and sleep wake disorders. So this will not just be all about insomnia or about general anxiety. We're gonna go through the whole spectrum to see how pharmacologic interventions can be useful. And for the first part, for anxiety related disorders in particular, I'll be using a lot of imagery from Steven Universe. I don't think it's a secret that I've been into this for the past few months. So of course, spoilers ahead. If you don't want to be spoiled on this, there'll be spoiler warnings before each particular important scene. But I think for those who've seen the 3 episodes, you might already know what's coming next. To see what we're gonna cover, just an overview. What is fear? What is anxiety? And how they can manifest as anxiety disorders and related disorders. Since as pharmacists, these are the mental health conditions that we usually manage in terms of anxiety disorders and related disorders. Then benzodiazepines. If you notice, we go beyond benzodiazepines because when you talk about anxiety and related disorders, there are other medications we can use for these as well. Sleep wake disorders. So beyond insomnia, what are the other sleep wake disorders that we observe? And besides benzodiazepines, we have the non-benzodiazepine benzo receptor. Well, that's a lot. BZRA, or however you want to pronounce it. Benzoreceptor agonists, the melatonergic agonists. I mentioned these in antidepressants module, doxepin and trazodone, and a bit in stimulants. Except for probably the ones used in ADHD, those are better tackled in the autonomic nervous system at least, which is actually, if you think of it, it's kind of weird since they're centrally acting stimulants. But anyway, whatever. And a dash of non-pharmacology because a lot of these mental health conditions and neurologic conditions are actually better managed through non-pharmacologic interventions. To quote is anonymous quote from my postgrad module. There are only 2 days in the week on which I never worry. One is yesterday, and the other is tomorrow. This is just one way to show that anxiety is pretty normal, actually. Anxiety is pretty normal. What's not normal is if it gets out of hand, so similar to other mental health conditions, they become disproportionate to what is expected, they start to interfere relationships, and so on. And one of the examples we will tackle in one of our characters. So, spoilers ahead from this point onwards. If you see a video clip, that's most likely a spoiler. We will see how this is portrayed in the protagonist. So, I'm actually glad they tackled it for the protagonist.
We are the Crystal Gems. We'll always save the day. And if you think we can't, we'll always find a way. That's why the people of this world
Believe in
garnet, amethyst, and pearl, and Steven.
All right. So, what are anxiety disorders? What are related disorders? When we say anxiety disorders, the base components would be the fear and the anxiety. These are normal. But when you talk about disorder, you add these to a disorder, they become out of proportion to what is expected. And then, of course, there are related disturbances in behavior, and they go on for a long time. They persist for a long time and they go beyond what is appropriate for your developmental milestone. So if you familiar with the concept of developmental milestone might have been discussed a bit in UTS or other similar subjects. And then we have related disorders. Before, it is previously thought that obsessive compulsive disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder were anxiety disorders. But now we're seeing in terms of symptomatology and clinical picture, OCD falls under more of a impulse control related disorder, and then PTSD would fall under a trauma and stress related disorders. So these are different. They may appear similar, but these are completely different from anxiety disorders. Although yeah, there's some similarities, Mern. Again, the right window there is to emphasize that the base components, fear and anxiety, they're normal. They're normal, but again, if they get to a clinical level, then there is something going on. What do we mean when we say anxiety and fear? When we say anxiety, it's future oriented. Your worries about the future and the accompanying behavioral, physical manifestations of that. Yeah, fear is the immediate, the current reaction to danger. So depending on the anxiety disorder, one or both of these may come into play in pathological ways. Again, anxiety in response to, for example, an upcoming test or a big event or project, or fear in response to a dangerous threat, for example, that's entirely normal and expected. But if it becomes out of proportion or it persists for months, like half a year, for example, then that's something to really worry about. How's the prevalence here? In a lifetime, about 31% of people may end up with a clinical anxiety disorder, and within a year, about 12-month prevalence, about 18%. But a substantial amount of people with anxiety disorders do not receive proper management, which is kind of surprising, actually, considering that in the Philippines, it's the sixth leading cause of disease burden locally as of 2016. 2015, it was the ninth leading cause of disease burden. Now it's the sixth. These numbers are just estimates, but the disease burden that's established based on the global burden of disease. And we're seeing a significant impact for those who have experienced anxiety disorder, or even just like a brief version for the most common manifestation, a panic attack, which may not proceed to something more. Even just one episode of a panic attack is already debilitating for people. What more people who experience these recurrently, or other symptoms as well.